Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Geraldine Collins, and I'm the Head of Operations for the Contact Centre and also one of the product owners on the Customer Service Programme. I'd like to welcome you all to the programme's second show and tell session, and thank you all very much for attending this afternoon. So can you move to the next slide, please? So since we last met, we have launched our Easy Read customer strategy, and I really hope you've all had time to be able to see this and review it, and that you agree with the strategy's principles. We've also been busy recording videos with our directors, and these will allow you to hear firsthand how important this strategy is and why it really is needed. We've also recorded some excellent videos with some of our citizens, so again you'll get to hear firsthand their comments and their views. We have completed discovery phases on bereavement, waste and housing repairs, and we are really grateful to the colleagues in those areas who've assisted us along the way. We're now progressing next steps with these services. Web content reviews are underway for waste, repairs and highways, and the programme is working on new processes and strategies which will take a more customer-centric approach, and these are still in development. The 3 service content reviews are supporting the findings and changes needed for fixing the basics around content, search accessibility, contact us information, and reviewing where we need to remove or redesign outdated PDFs or Word documents, and that's across the website. Changing the way these are presented so they're a lot easier, a lot clearer, and having them in more easy-to-read documents. And this all follows from the research that we've conducted with our citizens. We've also going to be able to talk to you this afternoon about the customer change workshops, because we've now had a decision to move forward with these, and June and Sarah will be covering these a little bit later on in more detail with you. Next slide, please. So we've got an exciting agenda for you. We're going to cover human-centred design approach, and Hannah will be talking to you about that. We're going to talk to you about the web content review, and that will be Sienna, Kizar and Hannah, and then the culture change workshops, which will be led by June and Sarah. So once again, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon, and I will now hand over to Hannah.
Thank you, Geraldine. Brilliant. So we just wanted to start off by sort of reinforcing the way we are working on this programme. So we're taking a human-centred design approach, and just in a minute or two just to share what that really means. So human-centred design is a creative approach to problem solving, and it ensures that we put people at the heart of the process. And when we say people, we mean both our kind of our customers, citizens, businesses, tenants, residents across Birmingham, but also staff and colleagues. It enables us to design and build products, services and organisations around user needs in particular and behaviours, rather than kind of systems and processes. And it makes us look at the end-to-end experience front to back. So we're not just looking at a segment of a process or an experience in isolation. We're looking at the full experience from when someone is aware they need to do something to completion of achieving that thing. This process enables us to develop solutions that are fit for purpose and that meet those user needs. We are very focused on accessibility, so it ensures our solutions are accessible for everyone, irrespective of their needs. What's really key is to have a team that's kind of curious and in their thinking and multidisciplinary. So we're really lucky to have that on the customer programme. So just a couple of principles of human-centred design. So data is the sort of helps to tell us what is happening, and the research tells us why it's happening. So those two really work in tandem, and they're sort of foundational to how we work. Empathy enables us to put ourselves in the shoes of our users, and that sort of goes hand in hand with the user research element. End-to-end I've already kind of mentioned, but thinking in that kind of holistic end-to-end way helps us design for that whole customer experience. And iteration means that we don't just go with what we've started with, but we're actually always testing with real users. We're learning what's working, what's not working, and we're improving upon that thing. So to kick us off on the work we've done, we are going to just share a bit about the web content review, and I'm going to hand over to my colleague Sienna Bailey.
Great, thank you, Hannah. So my name's Sienna Bailey. I'm a junior content designer working on the customer service programme, and I'm going to tell you a bit about the content auditing work we're doing on the BCC website. Can I have the next slide, please? So content audit is the process for looking at all the content that is on a website. So this could be anything from written content on web pages to downloadable files and links on a web page. And it's all about checking that all the information is accurate, up to date, and that it's easy for the user to understand. So for the content audit we're working on, we're currently focusing on 3 service areas, which are highways, housing and waste. And we're looking at all the web pages within each of those service areas to check the content on there. So we look at information including analytics, so like how many views a page has and how many users have visited it, any customer feedback on the website, user journeys, and checking the words on the page and whether they're readable and clear to understand. The benefits of doing a content audit include happier users being able to find the information that they're looking for without any frustrations, the lower cost to Birmingham City Council, so users can self-serve on the website without needing to interact with the council staff for any help. And overall, the result is just a really great website with good content that the users will enjoy using. And now I'm going to hand over to my colleague Azar, who's going to talk about our approach to the content audit. Thank you.
So our approach, we defined our approach by collecting information that help us to analyse the Birmingham website using quantitative and qualitative data. We got a list of links from the web team, and we use this list to separate all the links that were relevant to the service areas that we're working on. So as Sienna mentioned, that was currently highways, waste and audit. We then use Google Analytics to help us to collect the quantitative data, and that includes the page views, average time on page, entrances, bounce rates and exit rates. And then we started the qualitative assessment, and that was going through each page manually and reviewing the content. So that included assessing whether the page fulfilled its title aim, how easy are the words to read, the grammar and sentences, accessibility, usefulness to the user. And then we concluded by making a suggestion if the web page should be left as it is, improved or removed. And this also included a brief note with any suggestions for improvements. Next slide, please. So here's an example of the content audit that we did for waste. The inventory information is displayed on the top right, and that includes all the web links and keywords or metadata. The analytics information is displayed in the green section at the bottom, and the qualitative assessment with the notes for improvement is displayed in yellow, and that's on the top right. Sorry, on the yes, that's on the top right. And we scored each web page between 1 and 5. 1 required major work and 5 meant kept the website as it is. And some of the notes that we made included there are links which don't redirect to the correct page. Some sentences need clarity for the reader as they seem confusing or misleading, and sentence structure needs to be reviewed. Positioning of the text, for example, the paragraphs and bullet points make the web page look unappealing. I'll now pass you back to Hannah.
Thank you, Kazar. So we wanted just to share a couple of the challenges that we have had on this piece of work. So firstly, the website structure. So the BCC website has been organised to reflect user journeys rather than service areas, as it absolutely should be. But that does mean that each web link has had to be kind of manually assessed to identify which service area it would fall into. So that's sort of been the first hurdle. The second one, so we this extract we took of the website, it didn't list all the additional kind of pages or documents, so it missed out a lot of content that we had to manually identify from the website. So that was another barrier or a blocker. In terms of Google Analytics, we discovered that the analytics don't link forms and downloads to particular parts of the website, so they have to be identified and pulled in separately. And then also the analytics data presented over 1 million web links. This included a web link for any site search that was carried out. The web links also didn't reflect the live status of the BCC website. For example, pages which had been deleted or moved in the CMS did not change their state in Google Analytics. There was a limit on exporting the number of web links, so at any one time, so we could only export 5,000 into an Excel spreadsheet. So doing it at that rate is very time consuming to download a complete extract. The metadata also isn't visible on the site, so it can't be found there, and we'd have to manually go into each page in the CMS, which would be far too time consuming. And for some reason, there's no metadata on the website that doesn't appear in the CMS, and we need to definitely look into that further. And then just finally, the content audit was it is a very time-consuming thing to do. Reviewing each piece of content, grading it is a manual thing. It can't be automated, unfortunately. So that was another blocker. So the team have done a fantastic job of trying to work around all these challenges, and we've now sort of got to a point where we have a more streamlined process that will stand us in good stead moving forward to looking at other service areas. In terms of those next steps, then we are now at a stage where we can start with waste and housing to rework the content that is already in existence. So that will involve pair writing. So that will be a joint effort between our content designers like Sienna, the web team, and the service area. And we'll start with the pages with the highest traffic. So we'll redesign those pages to make them really user friendly. So that's it on the web content review. So I'll hand over now to Sarah and June. I think we're kicking off with Sarah to tell you all about that.
Presenter is mute.
Hello, my name is Sarah May and I'm the newest addition to the customer service programme, and I'm leading on the HR and OD piece of work. And what I'm going to talk to you today about is a little bit of work that we've done around the culture change and how we're going to be coming out to you guys really shortly to talk to you about that. Next slide, please. So obviously we're going to be doing some very interactive workshops with you. It's not training at all. We really want to get you involved. We're going to be talking to you about what our customers think of us. The program's done an awful lot of work in looking at data that you can see on the slide now. For example, what SMS, websites, the contact centre, all as well as talking to our customers so that they were actually taking the feedback on what they're saying about us. And we're going to be coming out to you guys soon and telling you all about that. Next slide, please. Okay, jumping ahead a little bit here. So I've just touched a bit about and how we're going to be coming out and talking to you guys, giving you some feedback on the data, and all of this is very much going to be centred around our vision for customer service. And our vision for customer service is going to be to deliver a best-in-class relationship with customers, offering an improved, consistent and cost-effective end-to-end experience when they access services, information or advice from the council. So that's a bit of a mouthful, I know, and what we're going to be doing is holding some sessions with you to talk about what that means to you and how customer interaction impacts and how we think we could do it all better. But that's our vision, and we'll be talking to you about that. Next slide, please. Okay, we're going to be very much centering around the customer charter, and what I'm now going to do is pass over to June, who's going to talk you through the next bit.
Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm June Marshall. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Customer Experience Manager for Digital and Customer Services, but I've got the Comms and Engagement Lead on the Customer Service programme. One of the key things that Sarah's mentioned that we've delivered or we've produced alongside Citizens, we've co-produced it with Citizens, is our new Customer Charter. So this charter really defines the minimum standards of customer service that we need to deliver to all citizens, whether they're internal customers or external customers. It's wherever we interface with others, basically, and there are some really basic standards of customer service that we need to work towards and improve. They do form part of the team principles discussion, and what you've got there is some links to the team principles that the new ways of working colleagues and their programme structure have launched, and also our customer service strategy intranet page, where you'll find lots of information, including the directors' films that Geraldine mentioned earlier, some citizen films, all of the easy read versions, all of the documents that you want, plus some updates on what the programme's done already in writing. So if we can just move on to the next slide, please. So the Customer Charter states we want to provide excellent customer service to everyone in Birmingham. That means putting people first all the time, every time. The Customer Charter will let you know what you can expect from us when receiving services and what we expect from you. So it's a two-way agreement, really, with our customers, citizens of Birmingham, people who work here, people who live here. And it does actually put some standards of service, standards of behaviours, if you like, that we want citizens to, if you like, stick to and comply to, at the same time as actually our staff delivering excellent customer service. Next slide, please. So the Charter does commit, it's got 4 key areas, to treating customers fairly, keeping customers informed, getting it right, and making access easier. And I'm sure you'll all agree, they seem really, really basic and dead standard. However, in all areas of the council, we know we don't always get this right, and it is something that we want to do. So just moving straight on. And this is the bit I said about the two-way agreement. So this is what we want from citizens, and it is sad that we're having to define these, but unfortunately, given my experience of working with contact centre colleagues and people on the front line, I know it doesn't always, we're not always treated appropriately, and the frustration isn't directed at any one individual, but it can feel like that. So we want our staff to treat us, we want citizens, sorry, to treat us with respect, give us honest, constructive feedback, get involved in local community activities and, you know, look to the local community for that help, and use our website and the Brum account to get the services and information citizens need. We're not saying that's the only route, it's just an option. Next slide, please. Do you want to pick this one up, Sarah, or would you like me to continue?
Yeah, yes, that's fine. So I think the next bit of this is going to be, we're going to call for action. We really, really want to hear from you guys. So what you think, you know, we're never going to get better without you on our side. You're fundamental to this. So we really want to hear about what you think, how you think that we can improve our customer service. A lot of you there on the forefront, you're talking to our customers, you know better than anybody what needs improving and why. We want you to tell us what you think needs to be improved and why you think that. And what do you suggest is the fix to make the service better for our customers? So we're really interested in hearing from you and what you think. We've got a contact there where you can contact us at the customer service programme, and I can assure you every bit of feedback we get is looked at, and we will get back to you on that. So please do that if you can. That would be absolutely great. Next slide, please. And this slide is just going to touch base on your colleagues that are on the customer service programme. So you've got the customer service programme link there, which please do, as the previous slide, send us any thoughts that you've got. June Marshall is our communications lead, myself, Sarah, as the OD and HR lead, and Tracy Curtin, who's the new ways of working. So if you've got any suggestions or questions, please do contact us. And it's over to you, June, for questions.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Hannah, Sienna and Kazar. and obviously thank you, Geraldine, who started us off at the top of the session. So we did put some prompts in the chat, so please, if you've got any now burning questions, please add to it. What I will do now is just go to the questions that are in here, and we'll try and field them between ourselves and make sure the right person from the programme team actually responds to them. So I think the first one's for you, Hannah, so you might want to put your camera on and say hello and take your mute off. Got ya. Great. So, Hannah, the first question is, what does human mean in the context of human-centered design? Humanity is a very diverse banner with many different ways of taking in information and thoughts.
Good question. So, for me, the human bit of human-centered design is rather than, I guess, human rather than systems. So, lots of things are designed around systems. So if you've ever been to an airport, you'll have experienced that that experience is not designed around people, or certainly much less so than other experiences you might have had. So human-centered design is all about putting the person, whether that be the staff member, the end user, or it could be a sort of an intermediary user or a secondary user, whoever the person is, at the heart of that design process, so that we're always keeping them front and center, and we're making decisions based on what their needs are, and what's paramount to us is how we meet those needs of those people. It's hard sometimes to balance because different people and different user groups have different needs, but fundamentally, we've got an end user, which for us on the customer program is the customer, and so their needs are sort of front and center and paramount to sort of everything we're doing.
Thanks, Hannah. That's really helpful. So a question, I believe, for either Sienna or Kizar, I'm not quite sure who wants to pick this up. So how do you quantify usefulness to the user? And how did you define user in the first place, i.e. what were the personas used in order to represent users?
I'm happy to take that one, June, if unless Kizar wants to give it a go.
No, that's fine. I was just going to say, I think you were typing. Just
yeah.
before the Q&A started, yeah.
So there's a few things to that question. So so user is defined as the sort of I guess the end user, but the end user of content on the website could be citizens, residents, customers, it could be businesses, it could be visitors. We obviously have some end users that are also staff, so it sort of depends, but we haven't, because we've not gotten to the point where we sit down, we do the actual sort of reworking of the content. So through that process of pair writing, where you work together and rewrite the content, we haven't at the moment got a set of personas that we're working to. We've obviously got our personas from the discoveries that we did previously, so we'll be using those, and keeping that will help to keep the human bit of the human-centered design, the person, front and center for us. In terms of defining usefulness, for me, that's how well the content meets the user need. And so for each web page, we're going to start off by defining the user need, and use that as our starting point, and then rework the content accordingly. There are thousands of web pages, and I saw one question a bit further on, I think, about testing with users. We will, I think, look to do some of that, but it's just impossible to test all the content with customers at this stage, given the timelines we've got and the size of the team. I think we'll probably focus on the high traffic pages to do that. But we'll update in the next show and tell where we're at. We'll be a bit further along at that point.
Thanks, Hannah. How do you select who gets involved in the testing environment to ensure we're user friendly?
So in terms of user testing, I don't know if this person who asked the question may have been at the last show and tell, where we would have talked about the sampling mix we used to do the discoveries. So in order to make sure that we are speaking to a broad cross-section of users, we have a sampling mix which details, say we want to speak to like 20 people, we'll look at the kind of whatever relevant data we've got. So previously we've used census data that tells us kind of what the population makeup is in Birmingham. So we'll look at ethnicity, age, disability, sexuality, etc., and we'll try and target you sort of have to do some maths to kind of coordinate the 20 people you want to speak to versus the data from the population, and that will, through doing that, you get some kind of hard figures of how many sort of men, women, non-binary people you need to speak to, people in this age bracket, that age bracket, that age bracket. So that's how we generally do it. But at the moment, with the web content review, we haven't done anything with end users yet, because it's been quite a long process to just understand the lay of the land with the web pages, all those barriers, those challenges I went through earlier. So we're now moving further forward. So over the summer, we'll definitely be engaging with a diverse range of users that hopefully represents the citizens. And when it's particular service areas like housing, for example, we'll focus on the tenants that we know that Birmingham have, and sort of from a demographic level. So that's sort of how we'll try and do it.
Thanks, Hannah. So we've had a conversation. We've had a question from somebody, or a statement from somebody saying, "Please, can we use plain English?" We do apologise in advance. And when asked what those words were, that we could clarify around the analytics, web links, extract, didn't list, sort of pair writing, content designers, all of those sort of things. Terminology could be more basic. So we do apologise. We'll take your comments on board. So thank you very much for that. Just moving on, there's a couple of questions actually. I'm going to bring Shiraz Yaqub in. So Shiraz is the other product owner alongside Geraldine for this piece of work, for the customer service approach, and we've got a couple of questions around the Brum account, and I know there's some work taking place. But first, Shiraz, I just wonder if the first point is, somebody's asked, is this only about improving the website, so the customer service programme? So if you can address that one. The other points on the Brum account are, the Brum account needs improving. We need some sort of tracker with queries, service requests, etc. from customers. And if we want to improve the Brum account experience for citizens, we need staff to either update CXM cases so citizens get an outcome in the Brum account, which involves a manual process, which would be better avoided, or spend a lot of money on automating legacy system feedback like internal systems that we've got. What's the right way forward with regards to this problem? Over to you, Shiraz.
Hi, good afternoon all. So a number of questions there. So the first question I want to address is around, is the customer program just about the website? Absolutely not. The customer program is touching on all channels. So, we're doing work within the contact center, which you'll hear about in future show and tell sessions. We're looking at channels, we're looking at satisfaction and common questions on how we can measure customer experience. We're looking at the data, looking at our technologies, how that data is kind of like feeding in, so that things like the channels like the contact center, for example, have got the right information, the right update to kind of like have that conversation with citizens. Equally with the website, we're looking at chat at the same time, and we're looking at opportunities where we can introduce chatbots and fully utilize features and capabilities of robotics as well, kind of thing. So it's just not about the website. The website is a channel. We need to ensure that we're consistently delivering the right information, the right customer experience, and having the right customer satisfaction back from our citizens who use all of our channels, depending on their choice on how they want to communicate with us. So I hope that answers that question. With regards to Brum account functionality, this is something that we are focusing on at the moment. So we are looking at the Brum account functionality and features. on how it's working today as part of Brum Account Phase 3, and we're going to engage with citizens who are users of the Brum account to engage with them to review their experience, but also look at some of the pain points and the opportunities that we've got to further improve that. There's a lot of requests from our previous engagements around notifications, around personalization, around artificial intelligence and surfacing, you know, things back into the account that may be of interest to them, kind of thing. So we are at the right time going to be looking at the Brum account and its functionality and introduce new features and new communication tools in kind of like strengthening the channel and the communications between the council and our citizens to make sure that that's right for their needs.
Thank you, Shiraz. Just before you disappear, we just have a little question that's just coming on the end, and it follows quite nicely on from that. Why do citizens have to have a Brum account? Can't they just transact without it?
Well, absolutely, they can. So if those who know the website, there are a number of services that we offer. So we've got the ability for you to fire and send, i.e. complete a transaction and send it through to us and then not worry about it. The fact that you've informed the council is great, and that's all you want to know. Then we've got a number of services that are actually linked to the Brum account where you have where you want a continuous relationship with the council, where you want to receive updates around what you've reported and track that through to delivery, kind of thing. But there's also services that are locked behind the Brum account where we need you to authenticate, because we're now presenting, you know, information back to you which is sensitive. So if you want to manage your council tax, for example, we're sharing that financial information for you, and that needs to be locked behind an account so that you authenticate yourself against that record in order for you to view it. So, and we need to look more into our journeys and start unpicking some of the functionality and the features where we've probably locked unnecessarily some of the services against the Brum account, and actually release them whereby you can transact with us in that fire and send situation. But in those requests whereby you are firing and send, also we're looking at a mechanism of where you could get a communication back to say that we've done it at the minimum, kind of thing. So, you know, it's almost you've told us, yeah, you don't want regular updates as it moves through the status of being delivered, but you might want a notification at the end to say that, yeah, it's been done, or we've completed the request, kind of thing.
Thank you, Shiraz. That's really helpful. I'm going to come to Geraldine next, because I know this is also one of her areas of responsibility. But the question is, how can we address duplication stroke multiplications, I think I've said that right, of complaints owing to the different ways of being able to make a complaint? Over to you, Geraldine.
Thanks, June. So I think fundamentally with complaints, whilst we're improving how quickly we respond to complaints, and there has been massive improvements over the last 12 months, it really is about actually learning from those complaints now, and actually, why are people complaining? What can we be actively doing in each directorate to drive down those complaints to actually stop them from coming, so they're not repetitive? And you know, as we know, there are many ways of complaints being made, whether that be via the website, whether it be over the telephone, but fundamentally we've got to start learning from complaints, driving them down, and actually getting those improvements in place so that they're not happening in the first place.
Thank you, Geraldine. That's really helpful. So I'm going to bring Sarah in a moment. From the culture change side. So Sarah, if you can put your camera on, please. So we've got a couple of statements in relation to, I think, the very short presentation you and I did. We need to treat staff fairly before we can treat customers fairly. If anybody wants to contact us separately, we're more than happy to talk to you or address that. The next statement was it's important to hide. Oh, hold on.
So sorry.
So important to highlight the two-way process, particularly on the customer charter. We sometimes overlook this. How do we highlight this at every touch point? So that's a very good point, and we would want to pick that up. So shall I come to you and ask you to pick those two up, Sarah?
Yeah, that's fine. I've got to remember what the questions were. There were two long questions there. So, right, I think the first one June said was about treating us fairly as well as treating customers fairly. Absolutely, whoever's put that, and I think that was the question. They were quite long questions. You know, we've got lots of policies and procedures. If anybody doesn't feel that they're being treated fairly, I think the two are separate issues. So we've got very much the customer service programme where we're looking at how we put customers at the forefront of everything that we do and every decision that we make. If you are not being treated fairly by somebody within the organisation or the organisation as a whole, then I would absolutely strongly ask you to refer to all of the available policies and procedures. But most importantly, you know, please do refer to your manager if there's any issues or concerns there, or if you can't, your manager, you know, as another colleague within the workforce. I do think they're two separate issues, because how we feel we're being treated shouldn't really affect how we treat somebody else, whether that be an internal customer or an external customer. But you know, absolutely please do make sure that you look at what's available to you to raise that. It's very important. And then the second question, June, I think was, I can't see the questions, was, what was the second question, June? You're typing it in, because there were very long questions there, so sorry.
No, it's fine, honestly, Sarah. So your second question.
Yeah.
Sorry. So the second point, to be honest, around the sort of, if you like, the customer charter particularly, was
about how customers
two-way process.
Absolutely, and I couldn't agree more. Absolutely, and we will be touching on that when we come out. You are so right. You are entitled to be treated fairly, and the customer charter does actually touch on what we should expect from our customers, and that's a very important point, and we will be discussing that as well. I think the customer charter does actually read like it's front facing, as if we're talking to external customers, but as you know, many of us here today, our customers are internal customers, very, very much so. For example, I'm from HR, you all here are my customers, so how I think that I should respond to you and how you should respond to me is absolutely part of the customer charter, just as much as an external customer should. So that's a really, really good point, and it will be included in the culture change workshops that we're going to be doing with you. But great, both really great questions, so thank you.
No worries. I think I'm going to have to come back to the web, Shiraz, because we've got a number of we've got a number of comments in on sort of, if you like, the web element. So what thoughts has the programme had in terms of leaving a sustainable process as a legacy for the website review? The pages have been amended as part of corporate programmes previously and are updated, so they are much improved at that point in time. But then over time, this quality declines. Should we not be doing annual reviews? Do we need a dedicated web resource linked to each service area and leads in service areas who have defined roles and responsibilities? Otherwise, won't it get data gain once the programme concludes? Shiraz.
Right, brilliant question, and I think that's been some of the pain points, not only for us internally as a web team, but also for our customers, kind of thing. Web pages get updated or and are out of date very, very quickly, kind of thing. And we're looking at that as part of our governance, kind of thing, and we're going to try and look to reshape the governance, whereby we're kind of like working with service areas very closely, and absolutely be clear in terms of where the responsibility sits for content, because we are presenting the content on the site on behalf of our directorates and services that we offer in Birmingham, and we're kind of like looking to change that responsibility, whereby the web team will work with directorate or service area leads who are actually responsible for the content, supported by basic training on how to write for the web, which will kind of like strengthen those skills within directorates kind of thing. And then the web team supporting them in terms of content design, governance, best practice, and, you know, meeting accessibility needs kind of thing, and really shaping that kind of work. That will help guide service areas. We are also introducing things like review dates within content. So we all know when the content is has been last been updated, but also when the content is being reviewed, and we're going to look to report that back to the directorate leads for web content, or even trigger that through the system, that they get notified to say that the content is up for review, and you need to do that. And then if it's not being done, we want to be able to report that up through the directorates into their DMTs, to kind of like strengthen that governance, the best practice, and the fact that the content is out of date, and this is how much out of date from the review date it is kind of thing. And it was only last week I was having this conversation. When we bring in a service into the contact center, we ensure that service is not only transitioned into the contact center from directorates into the corporate contact center, but it comes with a lot of knowledge, training, and support for agents in order to deliver that service. Now, the principles, and then it's maintained. So as that service changes, as the advice changes, you know, we'll have the relationships with the service areas who will update and will train, will brief, you know, the agents so that they've got the most up-to-date information, you know, at that time in terms of where the service is. It's no different to the web channel. If that helps, we should be adopting the same principles and keeping that content real, life, and up to date for our citizens to use, you know, in its current state as we deliver that service to them online.
That's great. Thank you, Shiraz. Just while we've got you, Shiraz, because it sort of feeds on from that. So some of our most vulnerable citizens need our services and don't have access to web online. How are we going to reach out to them and then provide services when all the focus is on web and telephone? Are we really thinking about our most vulnerable? Are we really providing the best possible service without any human interaction?
I think we're always going to get citizens who don't have web and online needs, or their needs that they can't meet kind of thing. We're not closing any of our channels, you know, for any citizens. They all remain open. What we're saying is that where a customer or a citizen wants to use the web channel is for purpose for their needs kind of thing. We have still got vulnerable citizens who have got online capability, and we're responding to the WCAG accessibility guidelines to ensure that the content is and the templates and the website is working to the compliance that we need to work to. We've got a lot of work to do around documents and PDFs, introducing easy reads so that those vulnerable people who are using the web, for example, and using assistive technology can kind of like work on the channel of their choice, if that's web. And if that's not web, for example, then we've still got the contact center there that our vulnerable citizens can continue to engage with, you know, and that's a choice. It's about accessibility. For me, the level of service we provide across all of our channels back to our customers kind of thing, and meeting their needs, which is, you know, the vulnerable citizens that we've got, you know, have got needs, and we need to be ensuring that our channels cater for those needs and in the best possible way.
Thank you, Shiraz. So my next question, I'm going to come to Geraldine on and her substantive role in the contact centre. So Pete's asked, robotics are great if trained correctly, but a bigger pain point is that we don't currently offer a fully transactional web chat service. Is this something which is being looked into as an improvement to the channel services? Over to you, Geraldine.
So thanks, June. And yes, it is indeed. So we've got web chat on a number of services now within the contact centre, and I will list them and send them out after this session. And we've recently piloted being more transactional on council tax queries that come through via web chat, which has gone down really well. So we're just evaluating that, and then we will look at other services to see what more we can do. At the moment, it is a lot of signposting, but certainly what we've seen that we've done on council tax has been really successful.
Brilliant. Thank you, Geraldine. I'm going to come to you for the next question as well, Geraldine, if I can. So aren't customer experiences more focused on the quality of the service they receive, not on the quality of the channels available to them?
Well, I would say in answer to that question, June, I think this is really looking at everything that we are trying to do through the whole programme, through the strategy, and I'll come back to everything that you talked about earlier with, treating customers fairly, keeping customers informed, getting it right, and just making sure that we as individuals are doing exactly what we should be doing, responding properly, putting ourselves in citizens' shoes about how we want to be treated. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yep, absolutely. I think what you're saying is it was a mixture of them both, but we do very much. We do very much have an emphasis on quality. So yes.
Sorry,
very so, June. Very much so.
Sorry, June, can I also come in on that question as well? So one of the things that we're doing when we're looking at some of the top priority services, not only looking at the customer experience, regardless of channel, but we're actually looking at the end-to-end customer journey. Which is not just about the channel, which then goes on to say what's the experience and what's the levels of satisfaction at the point that it goes from the channel into back office functions to do the delivery element of it. So we're not just focusing on the front end, the access channels. As such, we're actually then focusing on the end to end and looking at, well, how does what the back office do impact the experience of the customer, and are we presenting the right level of information? Have we got the right communication going through? So the updates, are they meaningful? Do they mean anything back to the customer, kind of thing? And then overarching it around that is having the right customer satisfaction questions asked at the right point in time to actually really look at where we're actually failing and pinpoint that end to end. So you look at the satisfaction end to end in the sense that they may come through the contact center and then it's passed on, and we might ask them some satisfaction experience and questions around there, and then it goes into back office teams who are then responsible for the delivery of the service. How does that then, how do we quantify that? How do we measure that level of experience to give us an overall, but from a data perspective, can we map the journey in terms of satisfactions and where we're feeling it, so that continuous improvement work can continue to happen, so it's not just a one-off monthly exercise.
Thanks, Shiraz. Sarah, I'm going to come to you next because we've got a couple on the culture change aspect, if that's okay. So the first one is, how are internal and external customers defined? And I know you talked about your internal customers. And are the protocols, ways of working, handling customers the same, whether the internal external distinction is made? Do you want to answer that one before I go on? Because I know you get lost if I ask you too many.
Yes, you did. You offered me, you asked me quite long questions there. And again, I think, they're really, really good questions. And I think that what will make more sense is when we start to come out and do our workshops, because the workshops are going to very much be centering around the customer charter. So, for example, if we look at what the customer charter says, which is basically talks about how we should treat customers, internal, external. The first one is we treat customers fairly. So we keep customers informed, getting it right, making access easier. So I think it is exactly the same principles of whether you're an internal or an external customer. I should treat you all fairly, you should treat me fairly, we should treat external customers fairly. Keeping you informed, an example would be for an internal customer, for example, if you'd submitted a grievance, we should keep people informed about what stage they are with the grievance and what's happening with it, just as much as if an external customer said my bin hadn't been collected, we should be telling them what stage their complaint is at. So yes, very, very much so. There's no difference, in my opinion, between an internal and an external customer. We should be getting it right first time, all the time, and doing the best we can for the people that we're offering a service to. Hope that has answered the question.
So just moving on to the next one then, Sarah, if that's okay. How will you ensure service area engagement and ownership? This needs commitment and support from senior leadership. And when are we going out to teams?
Absolutely fantastic question, and I couldn't agree more with that. Absolutely. And again, when we come out with the workshops, they're going to very, very much be personal workshops, very much around the directorate that we're at. We're going to be asking each director to make a personal commitment. So when we come out to you, you'll see a message from your director about what the customer charter means to them, how he feels that himself and his areas can be delivering on the customer charter, and in buy-in. Couldn't agree with you more. We've got to get buy-in at all levels. That's absolutely right. And we will be ensuring we do that. We're going to get personal messages from the director. And then after the workshops, we will be going back out and recapping and reevaluating and looking at where things have changed. We are going to be asking for customer advocates from each of our service areas. So we're going to be coming out and asking people to come and work with us after we've done the workshops. So we're looking for people that are going to be willing to kind of, from very much from their service area, champion the improvements that we need to see. We want people that are going to be willing to, identify areas for improvement within their own area and basically put their head above the parapet basically and tell us what's working and what isn't. And then we're going to go straight back, to those senior management leadership teams and confirm, what we've been told and where we can look for improvement. Absolutely ownership at all levels. That was a good question. When are we coming out to you? I'm currently writing a high level delivery plan, and I'm hoping we're going to start to touch base with some of you in June time. I'm hoping to have seen at least most of the directorates by the end of December. So we'll be coming to you pretty soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sarah. And just to reinforce that message about directors and ownership is if you jump on the intranet page, you will find some videos of our senior leaders of the council, all talking to me about their commitment to the charter, their commitment to the strategy and their commitment to improving customer service overall. And that list is growing daily as I do more interviews. So they're there, and the senior leadership team are very much in agreement with this. I've got a good question here. So this sort of question I'd ask, that's why we're going to do this one. How is this programme going to ensure it doesn't make the same mistakes previous customer service programmes obviously made? Who would like it, Shiraz or Geraldine? Geraldine's going to take it. She's moving to a mute button. There you go.
Thanks, June. So the whole programme has got the senior leadership buy-in. Everybody understands how important it is. We've listened to our citizens. We'll continue to listen to our citizens. And I think everyone that is actually working on this programme at the moment is really committed to making this a success. I think it's really important, the fact that we've already been working with a lot of our citizens. We've got all of their feedback. We've got so much information that's coming through on our CSAT surveys, through complaints. We've got an awful lot of data. So there is ample data for us to be going at to see where we need to be making improvements. with the services that we've been working with so far, we've had really good engagement, really good buy-in. So, you know, I think we all feel that things need to change, things need to improve, and I think we all need to take that personal responsibility of actually remembering why we're here, why we get up every day, and to make things better. We can't do all this without everybody. Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Geraldine. So the next question, I'm very conscious of time, so I will give Geraldine a couple of minutes just to say thank you, sort of round us up at the end. But we've got a question here. A lot of our services are delivered via contractors and third parties. What are we doing to bring their channels up to scratch? Hannah, would you like to take that one? Because I know we have also involved the contractors that we work with in some of the user research, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. So where we've been able to get access to those third parties as contractors, we've obviously have to go through the service, so it's not always possible. But where we have been able to, we've conducted user research with them. We so far have been looking at quite a high level. So one of the areas we're going to focus on coming up is housing in beyond housing repairs, but sort of as a whole service. And so in that instance, we'll be kind of really getting under the skin of the various kind of systems and processes that the contractors have, the customers are using and staff are using, and that will really help us understand that whole end to end, you know, from start to finish user journey, and what we call kind of back to front. So the front bit that the citizen or the customer experiences, and then all the kind of back office stuff. So the back office systems, processes, etc. So yeah, so we absolutely recognise that contractors are fundamental in ensuring we get the full picture, and they are also the ones we've spoken to are very on board with supporting this programme, learning from the findings, you know, wanting to kind of improve their systems and processes and their ways of working to better meet customer needs as well. So it's a really positive outlook, I think, on that front.
Great. Hannah, just while I've got you, just the final question before I pass over to Geraldine. So we've got a question saying most citizens are annoyed that the services they request have now been carried out and not about what's on the web or who they spoke to over the phone. And I know we've got a process for getting service areas engaged. What are you going to do to ensure that service areas are delivering services? One of the biggest annoyance citizens have is missed bins. Improving the web is not going to stop or improve missed collections. When will the service areas take notice and change their process?
So, this is a good point. So you're right about the bin situation. We know from our research that's absolutely one of the biggest pain points. There are, however, ways that we can improve communication with citizens in order to for example, we're looking at how can we leverage some technology called Slab in the Cab, which is a tool that the teams are taking out on the road with them. The teams have on in the truck. How can we link that up with the Brum account in order to notify a customer in advance that, yeah, we know we've missed your road today. This is why, you know, there was an obstruction or whatever. We're really sorry. Don't worry, we'll be back with you within sort of 36 to 48 hours to collect your bin. That's just an example of how we can use technology to, it may not mean that citizen gets their bin emptied as they expected on that day, but it means that we're informing them of what's happened proactively and enabling them to I guess stay informed and sort of not have to pick up the phone or get online and tell us that we've missed their collection. So there's loads of really great stuff happening in the waste area, in the waste team. So we're trying to support that and you know, maximize the technology that they've got and the momentum that they've built in that space.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Hannah. I really appreciate that. So just thank you all for your questions. We will be publishing them on the intranet. We do have an intranet page. Somebody asked for a link to this customer service strategy earlier. I noticed that's been put in on the Q&A. I'm going to hand you over to Geraldine now just to finish us off, if that's okay, Geraldine.
Yes, thank you, June. Some really great questions there. So thank you so much to everybody who participated in those. And June, thank you for hosting those and fielding those questions out to us all. Thank you, team. Today, I think that's been a really, really good session. We're finishing just in time, and the next session will be happening on the 21st of June. So we look forward to seeing you all there. So a big thank you from behalf of myself and all of the team for attending today. We really hope you've enjoyed it. See you soon. Thank you. Bye bye.